today we'll just start with the processes and the CPU scheduling, right? So today we'll just go through it, the processes, and then in next lecture we'll start with the CPU scheduling. So there are some algorithms for the CPU scheduling. So we'll see these algorithms in that CPU scheduling, and today we'll see something about the processes and the threads, right? So these two concepts we'll see today. First, I'll just uh, okay. We'll see processes in this. We'll, sorry. We'll see the first what is the process, and there's something about the structure and the that types of the process. So let we say introduction about the processes. Then we'll see the process cycle. We can say that is a life cycle or process state. And the one more the process is there, that is a cooperating processes. And last we'll say about the threads, right? So these things we'll see today, and in next lecture we'll just start with the CPU scheduling, right? So here now see what is process and why that processes is required. Because see, if you consider the operating system, so there are two types of
Screen
operating
is not
system.
visible.
One we can say uniprogramming, or we can say unitask. And second one is the multi-programming, or we can say multitask, right? So if you see this unitask or uniprogramming, in that the disk operating system that comes here, and here we can say Windows or
Screen is not visible.
Linux, right? This one. So whatever that process scheduling and that comes, that is coming under the program multi-programming, we can say, right? So what is the aim of that multi-programming or multi-programming scheduling? So that first aim of that multi-programming is the high processor utilization, right? So the important aspect of this is first is high processor
So
utilization.
visible.
That reason is what? That main aim in operating system is your processor should not be idle, right? So every time that processor should busy, so that's why we need to high means we need to use that processor the every time, so that should not be idle, right? So that is the main aim, we can say, or that is the goal of this operating system, so high processor utilization. Second, that the goal is, we can say, high throughput. So high throughput means what? The number of processes completed per unit time by that processor. That is nothing but the high throughput, because the processor every time executes any process. So whatever is that the time, or we can say the number of processes completed per unit time. So that is nothing but the high throughput. And one more term that comes here, that is a low response time. Response time. So this is what, consider you have submitted your process to the processor, right? Or we can say you have requested that process, or you submitted that process for the submission, execution, and the process actually start that execution. So whatever is that time between that submission of that process and actual the execution starting point of that execution, the time is nothing but the low response time, right? So one second. Huh? Oh, 1 minute, huh? ठीक है. हाँ, 1 minute. Oh, oh, okay. I have not
Yes, sir.
shared my screen, so actually you need to say here, huh? 1 minute. Entire screen.
सांगा काय वाढू
Now is it visible?
Yes, sir. Now it is.
I told you, don't put that messages into the message box, because when I start my lectures, I won't see that messages. So my request is you just interrupt me and you just say me whatever is problem there, right? Okay. Am I audible? First you tell me. Okay. I think, I don't know. One minute, huh? We'll try to resolve this problem first. Actually, if I'm audible but your voice is not coming to me. Hello. Now you just speak someone. I have just done this.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yes. Please say something so that I'll see whether I'm
Yes, sir.
audible and also your voice is coming to me or not.
Hello, sir.
Hello. Because I am again not able to hear your voice. I'll put that message.
Okay, I think I just reconnected this one. So can you say something?
Yes, sir.
Because okay, CR or anyone, please call me and just tell me the problem. Okay. So if anyone is having my number, please call me and tell me something, whatever is the problem. I know I am audible, but what about your voice? 1 minute. Huh? Hello. हाँ. तर हेडफोन बंद केला काय होतं की आवाज खूप कमी रेकॉर्ड होत होतो. त्यामुळे मी हे स्पीकर 1 मिनिट मी काय करतो माझे हेडफोन आहे चेक करतो कारण ना I have. Okay, I'll just connect that wired headphone. Okay, and मला please tell me की whether I am audible or not. आता तू चालूच राहू दे फोन चालूच राहू दे. तू फोन चालूच राहू दे आणि तिकडेही बोल. ठीक आहे. 1 मिनिट. बरं ठीक आहे, तू बोल, मी 2 मिनिटात कनेक्ट करतो आणि सांगतो. ठीक आहे. कारण स्क्रीन शेअर केली तुला पण कळेल मी काय ऍक्टिव्हिटी करतोय ते. ठीक आहे. हां. ओके, थँक्यू.
Hello. Now am I audible? Hello. One minute. इथं परत म्यूट दिसते हे. Hello. I think now it is working. Still you say something?
Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you. Now it is audible to me also. Okay. I think I have shared my screen now. Hello.
Yes,
One-
sir. Yes, sir.
The PPTs are visible. Okay. Again, I'll just start it. See, we are starting with this next unit, that is processes and CPU scheduling, right? Already I just told you it is having two part. One is the process part, and again the second part is the process scheduling or CPU scheduling, we can say. So today we'll see something about the processes. I'll show you. I think there's things I had written. 1 minute. Just okay. So I had told you today we'll try to see this, the introduction about the processes, then process cycle, or we can say process states, then cooperating processes and threads. So these points we'll see today. Actually, the aim of any operating system is to do the multiple tasks at the same time, right? But if you see the operating system, so there are two types. One is the uniprogramming, or we can say unitask operating system,
and second one is this multi-programming, or we can say the multitasking. So the example of that unitasking is, we can say, the disk operating system, DOS, right? So here in this the disk operating system, at the same time only we can do the single job, right? Here in the unitasking. But when we consider the multitasking operating system, so the examples are Windows or Linux. And in multitasking, as we know, at the same time we can give these multiple job to the processor. The example is like, we can start your the any player, right? We can start any player and we can parallelly have the other applications, like we can open the browser, and also we can have the any other applications like the MS Office or something, right? So parallelly we can do the multiple jobs in the multi-programming or multitasking operating systems, like you consider that example as a window, right? So multi-programming or multitasking, to achieve that goal, we need to use that the CPU scheduling, we can say. So here, so when we go for the multi-programming or multitasking, so that main goal is the high processor utilization, we can say. So whatever is the processor, that should not be idle at any time. It should have, or it should busy with the process execution at all time, we can say. So that's why we can say this is high processor utilization. Second one is the high throughput. High throughput means what? The number of processes completed per unit time by that processor. That is nothing but the high throughput. And second one is the low response time. So that low response time is what? Suppose that process submitted at this moment for the execution, and that process actually started execution at this moment. So whatever is this time, that is a low response time, we can say. This is low response time. This is the time when you submitted that process for the execution, and this means what? Actually that process has been started for that execution, and whatever is this gap between these two, so that is called as low response time. Getting this? So next we'll see what is process then. So before just moving for the process, one definition that all you know, the definition about the program. What is the definition of that program? So program is actually this is a passive entity. That we know. And this we can say this is a list of instructions stored on the disk. This is nothing but the program. We can say in program it has the some list of the instructions. So when we execute that program, so these instructions will be executed. Now we'll go for the process. Now what is the process? In simple terms, we normally say process is a basically program in execution. We can say here program in execution, we can say, right? That is a simple definition, but actually this process is a active entity. Now just I'll tell you that the meaning of active entity and the passive entity. See, when we consider the program, so in that program case, we write the program, we can say the list of the instructions here, and we store this program on secondary disk, suppose ROM. We call it as hard disk, right? So this is a program, this one. So now what we did, we just return some the instructions over here, right? And prepare that file, and we have stored that file on the hard disk. So actually this is not doing anything, not doing anything. We can say right now not doing anything, because simply we have written it and we stored that on the hard disk. So that's why we call it as a passive. It is not doing anything. But when we consider that process, so when we send this send for execution, when that same program or that file, when we bring it for the execution, like here, suppose in RAM, this is RAM, right? And in RAM, when that file comes, whatever is that file having instructions, so when this file comes to this RAM, it means you are sending this file for the execution, then this becomes a process. Have understood that concept of process? This is a program. This we can call it as a program. And this we can call it as a process. I mean, that same thing is there. When we store that file or program on hard disk, so that we can, or that file, we can call it as a program. And when we send that same program for the execution, then we can call it as a process. Have understood this? I think you might understood this, the process. And see, as we know, for the execution of any the program or any the process, we need to bring that program or that file or whatever is that one, that into the primary memory, into the RAM. And when we bring it to the primary memory, then and then we can send it for the execution. I think you might understood this one, right? Now, when we consider this process, right, as I said, in simple terms, we can say when we define this process is an active entity and is a program in execution. It is a program, but when we can call it as a process, when it is in execution, then and then we can say that as a process. Otherwise, that is a program. If it is stored on the hard disk here, like, so then we can say that is a program. But when that same program we send it for the execution, that becomes a process. That is the thing. So you just understand that difference between the program and the process. Program is a passive entity such as a file that contains the list of the instructions which is stored on the hard disk. That is a program. And that same program when we send for the execution, so we can say that becomes a process. So process is an active entity and is a program in execution. So I think you might understood that what is the process. And also this is a flow of the process, we can say, from program to process. Now when we consider the process, so that a process is actually or that program when we load into the primary memory, that becomes a process. And this is been divided into 4 parts. Actually, first part is a stack. Second part we can call it as a heap. Third part we can call it as a text. And next, that last part we can call it as a data, right? Now, what is the meaning of this stack? So this stack contains if the program is having some functions and methods and some return address, local variable, all these things are there into the stack, right? So which things? We can say functions or methods, right? Methods. Then as we know, when we consider the functions, then parameter comes, right? And also when we consider the function, so we need to maintain that return address. So that again, that stack contains, so return address. And also if it is having some local variables, so that it will contain again. So stack that contains, and this is a temporary data actually. So the stack contains the methods or functions, parameters, return address, and local variables, right? So this is the first part of process. Then we when we go for the heap is what? This is a dynamically allocated memory to a process during runtime. So when we send that process for the running to run into the RAM, like here, from here to here, when we send this, so dynamically it reserves some memory for that process. You can say this one, right? This one. 1 minute. This one, right? So dynamically allocation of that memory. So this is nothing but the heap. Getting this? Now next, I'll write here dynamically allocated memory, we can say. Memory to that process, whatever process you are sending for the execution. So for that process, it reserves dynamically that memory. Now next one is a text. So actually it contains the all current activities. Current activities and also some program counter, some contents for the registers in that processor and something, right? And that data, this is having some static and global variables. This one, right? So these are the 4 steps we can say when we send that process for the executions. I think this is a simple. So that process has been divided into these 4 parts. Stack, that stack is contain functions, parameter, return address and local address. Then second is heap, that heap is nothing but the dynamically allocated memory for that process, whatever process you are sending for the execution. Text that contains the current activities, and data contain that starting and global variables. So this is, I think, nothing but the process. I think you might understood what is a process, and these are the 4 the sub means the category, we not category, but this process is divided into this one. It's steps kind of, right? Have understood this? What is process? Now we'll see. One minute. Next one is I'll say process states or process cycle, we can say. Process states or process cycle, right? 1 minute. See, as I said, when we when we store that file on the hard disk, that becomes a process, and we send that process for the execution, that becomes a, sorry, when we store that program on file on hard disk, that becomes a program, and when send that program for the execution, that becomes a process. Now here, when we send that process for execution and when we complete, when we say that process is completed its execution, in between some state are there, means we can say that is the life of your process from sending from hard disk and completion of that execution. So in between only that process is having life, and there are some states, right? So we'll see some states. We can say first is a initial state, or we can say, 1 minute, I'll, what happens? I'll write here, suppose new process, this one is a new process. New process, we can say you need to execute that program, right? So this one, it means we are creating that process, right? Now, as I said, in this diagram, you can see here, this one, right? So we need to send this process or that program from secondary memory to primary memory, this one, right? It means next step is ready. I don't know what, why this 1 minute. I'll take new activities. Okay. Cycle, or we can say states. Okay. So suppose you are creating a process that is a new, you are creating it like, and it is in ROM, right? We can say it as a hard disk. Getting this? Now, when we send this process to the primary memory, we can say this is a ready state. Ready is what? When you send that process in the primary memory and you know whatever is there into the primary memory, that is ready for the execution. Getting this? Now here, just before moving toward this one, I'll just tell you something again here. Consider here is a process, right? This is a process P1, right? Now first process goes here to the processor, we can say CPU, and this becomes the execution. But what happens normally while execution, that process needs to access some input output devices. Now in that time, what happens, that processor sends that process back and it takes the another process. It means, suppose this is a P1 again here. Now here, whatever is this time, this is for IO execution, right? So P1 process started execution. In between that, it needs to access some input output devices. So what that processor did, that processor sent process back for the IO execution, and that processor takes another process for execution, right? Now suppose after execution of this IO or utilization of this IO, again that process goes to processor. It, we can say, again it is execution, right? Again after execution, again suppose that same process wants to use that IO, we can say that IO, right? Again execution, this one, and we can say here termination. Suppose that process works is complete, it has been executed, completed, it means we can say terminated, right? This one. Now see, this is a process life cycle. This is CPU execution, this is IO execution, this is process, sorry, CPU execution, this is again IO execution, and lastly CPU execution and process completed, and we can say terminated. It means whatever is the memory reserved for that process in the primary memory, that has been released, right? So this is actually a cycle. So first execution, IO execution, CPU execution, IO execution, this alternate. So whatever is the process spend time into the execution, here you can say this one, and this one, right? So these three are nothing but CPU burst. Getting this? So whatever the time spent that process into the CPU, so that is nothing but the CPU burst. And this one, right? So these two we can consider, these are the IO burst. I think you might understood this. The CPU burst and IO burst, so whatever time spent into the execution by that process, that is nothing but the CPU burst, and whatever the time spent to access these IO devices, input output devices by that process, that is nothing but the IO burst. You can see this one, right? So this is the cycle. Actually, I think you might understood this, now I'll show you the diagram, right? So we'll see that process state diagram or life cycle. New, ready. So as I say, this is in ROM. We created that process, created, and when we send that process for the execution, it means this is coming in RAM. When process sends into the primary memory, that is nothing but RAM, we can say this is ready for the execution, right? So from new state to the ready state, and we can say this is done by LTS. LTS is what? Long-term scheduler, right? LTS is what? Long-term scheduler. And after ready state, as it is ready for the execution, it means we need to send it for the execution to the CPU or processor. So we can say running stage or running state. So we can say this is the running state, and it is done by the STS short-term scheduler, right? Now running stage means what? This is the actually into the CPU. Actual that process is in execution by the CPU. This is nothing but the running stage. But what happens, as I told, like here, this time is a CPU burst time, this time is IO burst time, again CPU, again IO, and again CU. So this is CPU burst, this is IO burst, again CPU, again IO, and finally CPU and release completion, right? It means from ready to running when it sends, and suppose while execution of that process by the processor, suppose that process wants to execute or wants to access some IO devices, then that process needs to send either for ready, suppose this one, right? Because this process is not been completed, it is a partial, right? And or suppose the another situation comes, like this process is executing and any another process that is high priority process comes to that processor. So what that processor will do, this will send it back to the ready queue, so that after execution of that high priority process, this will take it again and it start execution. So when this is sending back, if suppose high priority process comes to the processor for the execution, it's sent back to the ready queue. This is one. Second, suppose that process, see, I'll just take one example here, like P1, consider the process. It is created, it suppose sent to the ready queue, and suppose it is executing, right? P1. Now, if any high priority process comes, so that P1 sends for the to the ready queue, and this will execute that high priority process, that processor. This is one case. One case is what? One is what? If suppose high priority process comes, then it's sent to ready state, right? Second case might be what? Suppose that P1 process wants to execute some IO processes, IO devices. So some if IO request comes, then again there is a state that is wait, or we can say block. This is this one. So this will send to the wait or block state when it sends when IO request comes. IO request comes, and that process is suppose P1. So IO request, if it comes, then we can say send to wait. This one. One example I'll just tell you in this corner. Suppose one program you are writing here, right? Some instructions are there, and here scanf function is there, right? So this part is been executed by that processor. In between, after that execution of this part, this function is there, and this function needs to access your input device, that is a keyboard, because that scanf is the function that accepts the input through the keyboard. So it means what? This is a completed, this is a CPU burst. Now, when that scanf function comes, so it needs to access that keyboard, right? Because we need to accept some inputs. So this will go for this wait state, right? And here this will access that input device. I think you might understood this example, right? And after suppose accessing that input or output device, now suppose in this example scanf function, if it is there, then it is accessing that input device, that is a keyboard. After taking or accepting that input from the keyboard, it again goes for the ready stage. You can say here ready state, because that IO completes here, right? So when IO completes, it goes for the ready stage. Now here again that this is P1 again, huh? P1 consider, and here when this IO complete, this will go into the ready stage, and when that processor becomes free, so that P1 again will send to the processor for the execution. So this is a simple cycle. This will continue till process gets completed. Now here, oh, 1 minute, huh? I'll just try to rub this if it is possible. Yeah, I think you might understood, so I'll just rub this because I need to write one step here. So after completion of that step, that final step is terminate, right? This one, it means what? It deallocates memory. Getting this? So whatever is that memory reserved for that process, suppose here P1, so this process has been completed and it has been free or deallocated that memory space. Getting this? This is simple, the life cycle of that process from creation here, from creation till execution. Now again some cases would be there, like one the example I'll tell you. Suppose that process P1 process is here into the wait or block state, and that ready queue is not empty. You can see here, because what happened here, after completion of that IO, we are sending suppose that process to the ready queue, but now suppose that ready queue is not empty, sorry, not having a space. In that case, we can again one more state have here, that is suspend state, or we can say wait. So suspend wait means what? Actually, this is in secondary memory. We can say ROM. It means after sending this process to the ROM, so this becomes a program. Getting this? This one. So this is done by the medium scheduler, medium term scheduler. And after just having a free space into that, we can send it back to the wait block, again from wait block to the ready state. This is one thing. Suppose again of this wait state is not having a space because everything is happening into the RAM. If suppose again this is not there, that space is not there, then one more option is there. We can directly send this here. I'll write here suspend ready. One more state we can draw here, and from here we'll send it to this. Getting this? Now here we can say backtracking, or and from here directly we can send it for the ready. If that ready is having space, then we can send it. If it is not, again we can go back this one. Getting this? So when that ready queue is full, then we can use this one. So here when ready full. Getting this? So this is actually a process cycle or process life cycle, we can say. Or process states. This one. Right? So have you understood this one? I think you might understood this. What is the process life cycle or process states? If you are having any doubt, you can ask me, please. Okay. Any doubt? No? So I'll show you something over here. I think if you understood this one, then I'll show this. So whatever I have just explained, that I'll just show you here. So as I said, it is an important aspect of multi-programming is what? That is a scheduling. Right? So that goal is to achieve this one is already I just told you, high process utilization, high throughput. What is the throughput? The number of processes completed per unit time. That is nothing but the throughput. And low response time is what? The time when we submit that process for the execution, and when the time when that process actually start execution. What is that gap? That gap is nothing but the low response time, right? So here the same, what is a program? That program is a passive entity such as a file containing a list of instructions stored on the disk. And process is an active entity and is a program in execution. So that structure of that process is this one: the stack, then heap, then data, and then text, right? Because these are the four parts, or we can say that process has been divided into these four parts. So one example, if you see here, in simple terms, we write our computer program in text file, and when we execute this program, it becomes a process. I told you with that diagram. So when we stored any program on the hard disk, so then that becomes a program, right? And when we send that same program for the execution to the primary memory, then that becomes a process. So in simple term, we write our computer program in text file, and when we execute this program, it becomes a process which performs all the tasks mentioned in that program. So whatever the instructions we have written into that program or that file, so that process will execute or complete all the instructions, and then it is completed, we can say. So that becomes a process. So when a program is loaded into the memory and it becomes a process, it is divided into four sections. So these sections are, if you see here, stack, heap, text, and data. So same thing I have just mentioned here, stack also. So that stack is what? So that process stack contains, as I said, temporary data such as functions, or we can say methods, parameters, some return addresses, and some local variables. So that part, that stack contains. And when we say heap, so whatever is the dynamically allocated memory, that is nothing but the heap.
and text is what? Whatever is the current activities, so these activities will have into the text part. And in data part, so only the local and static variables, global and static variables, that data will have. So I think this is about the processes, and this is a life cycle. Whatever I just explained you, I have just shown you that this is a simple the diagram, but whatever diagram I just drawn there, so that is a complete diagram. This is a very the primitive diagram, we can say start, or we can say that new. It means at this stage, that file would be there on the hard disk, and we send this, when we send that file or that program to the primary memory, then we can say that is a ready state, that is ready for the execution. And I just taken, I think, that P1, the example that P1 is process that we started, and when we send it to the primary memory, that P1 becomes ready for the execution. And when we send that P1 for the to the processor, that processor, when that processor execute that P1, that would be there into the running stage. And if suppose any high priority process comes to the processor, then that processor will send back that same P1 process to the ready state, and that will get that high priority process, and that will start the execution of that high priority process. After completion of that high priority process, that processor will take that P1 from the ready state and will continue its execution. This is one step. Second step is what? If suppose that P1 processor wants to access any input or output device, then that processor will send that process to the wait state here to access the IO devices, and this processor will get the next process, right? And when that P1 process access that input or output devices, then that wait state is completed, and that will send to the ready queue here. And again, after becoming that processor free, suppose that P1 will get that processor, it will complete that process, and after completion of that process, it will send to the termination. It means that process is complete, and this will deallocate that memory. I just mentioned here that CPU burst and IO burst. So CPU burst is what? Whatever the time spent by that process into the processor, or we can say into the running stage, that is nothing but the CPU burst. And whatever the time spent by the process for the execution of IO devices, that is nothing but IO burst. It means here into the wait state. If suppose that process is coming here for accessing of IO devices, then we can say that is the IO burst, right? So I think you might understood that process and process state or process life cycle. Any doubt you can ask? Anything? I'll stop my sharing. Okay. So if you are having any doubt, you can ask me, please. Hello. So anything? See, only today we have seen what is the process and that process life cycle. So if you are having any doubt in these two things, you can ask me. See, when that high priority process comes for the execution, in that case, it means that process, suppose that P1 is the process, it is already running into the processor. And suppose in between that high priority process comes, so it means that P1 process is executing. It is not requiring any input output devices. So in that case, that processor will send back that process to the ready state. Getting this? If suppose that process P1 wants to access any input output devices, then it will go for the wait state, or we can say suspend state, if it is that space is not there, right? Anything?